presenting Canary P.I. in The Black Lotus of Mulgrave, a J. Henry production. When you've got the stop and you got no pop, count on Schaefer's brake pads.
A brisk wind groans through my tilted blinds like a widow's lament. I breathe deep the comparably fresh air from the outside. Peeking through the slats, I gaze out into the hustle and bustle of my city. Darkened clouds hanging in a blanket of vague dread, like if you can't remember if you left the stove on or not. A nestled pigeon on a fire escape catches my attention across the way. This is a harsh town. All the luck, little buddy. Canary.
I have your mother on the line?
I told her not to call me here. Alright, patch her through.
Raynor Preston, it's been 2 weeks since you called me. Your father has the worst case of lumbago I have ever seen. The bathroom sink won't stop dripping, and our upstairs neighbors are doing the Lindy Hop 24/7.
Sorry to hear it, Ma.
When are you gonna settle down with a nice girl? Come on. You're an eligible bachelor, self-employed, thriving business.
Working on it, Ma.
You're not getting any younger, and I want grandkids.
Look, I'm working, Ma.
Oh, sure. Mr. Important can't give his mother 5 minutes of his time. Reminds me of the time when Aunt Ruby's wig caught fire at the eggnog social. You see, what happened was that...
I'll call you next week, Ma.
Bye, honey. Baby boy. Oh, make sure you're eating.
Yeah, I'm working on it. A string of failed relationships, alright. There's only so many times a lady will be stood up because you're investigating a murder. Late nights, ankle deep in fish guts at a sardine factory because someone allegedly slipped into the vat. They want to know about your day? Half the time you can't tell them for their own protection. Sometimes the details are just too ugly, and I don't even want to relive them. Not to mention how dangerous my line of work is. I can't tell you how many cranium-bound blackjacks I've had to dodge, or an errant stiletto from a barroom brute, or even worse, bullet hell from Sammy the Nose Hoffa. One of those did hit. All close calls. The truth of the matter is anything can happen at any time. I'm not a safe bet. How could I ever take a wife if I could go at any time? I can't put anyone through that. A doghouse and a picket fence just aren't in the cards for me.
P, there's a tattooed lady from the circus here to see you.
Naturally. Send her in. The doorknob turns and in comes this slender, kind of tall woman. Confidence in her strut, tight curls in her shoulder-length hair. She held out her hand, the head of an Asian dragon etched on her wrist, its body twisting and turning up the length of her arm.
Sally Sutcliffe's the name, and oddities are my game. Not only do I run a curiosity tent, I'm also the lead performer.
Take a seat and tell me what vexes you.
Everything peachy. Ain't no vex on these decks.
Well, good. There's the door. Thanks for visiting.
Ah yes, I heard you can be ornery. I also heard you're pretty nifty with the 6-shooter.
What's the job, Sal?
You see, I'm always on the lookout for talent. Talent jumps in and out all the time. Sometimes we travel to a city they want to settle down in, sometimes we lose them to their afflictions, which is very sad. Me? I'm a lifer. I love what I do.
Cigarette?
No, I only smoke Chesterfields. Anyway, we always put the word out that we're looking to employ. You would be amazed how many criminals and unsavory hucksters this can attract.
No, I wouldn't.
I need someone to protect me. The carny world is filled with frivolous people sniping talent for other traveling shows for a kickback. All you would need to do is sit in the corner and look pretty. Make sure nothing goes south. Easy peasy. Lemon squeezy.
I'll take the job, but we do it here in the office, on my turf.
That'll do her, Canary. I'll be here tomorrow at the crack of 11 a.m. with the riffraff.
Talk to my secretary for the invoice. She nods and walks out of my office. Sounds like a routine bodyguard job. Done my fair share of them. Never worked with Connies before, though. Connies and Canary. More like Connies and Rubes. I don't mind if she has me pegged as a rube as long as the money is green and no one gets hurt. Noon, next day. She's an hour late. Maybe I've been stood up like a chaste prom date on a Sunday. Spent the morning tidying up the office, figuring how we're gonna do this. She's gonna sit behind my desk while she interviews her cavalcade of disparate misfits, and I'm gonna sit in the corner reading my paper, strategically next to the sawed-off under that loose floorboard. I highly doubt anything is gonna happen that my trusty 38 can't handle.
Miss Sutcliffe here to see you with a train of colorful personalities.
I go into the small lobby outside my office, packed full of eccentrics dotted with a few unassuming people. Now look everybody, we don't have enough room for you all, so this half is gonna have to come back in a couple hours. Try Leo's down the block. Corned beef that'll knock your socks off. I whisper to my secretary that she better take the rest of the day off, in case things get hairy. She opens her pocketbook to reveal a 22 that could fit in the palm of your hand. She winks and goes back to typing. I call Sally in alone to explain how we're going to be situated. She nods and seems content. Now don't move the ashtray, I got it just where I like it. Do your thing, Canary's got your back.
You talk in the third person. That's precious.
I crack a sarcastic smile and get settled in with my paper.
Whoever's first may come in now.
In comes a greasy-haired fella carrying a dummy.
We don't normally hire ventriloquists, but give us your pitch.
Hello, my name is Edward, and here's my friend Bobo, the idiot dummy boy.
Oh, brother.
We got your information. Next. This is gonna be a long day.
A seemingly endless line of sword swallowers, jugglers, geeks, magicians, and dancers. Most of their routines stunk like yesterday's catch.
We've been at this for hours. What do you say about calling it a day? Eh, Canary?
Hey, it's your gig.
I'm good for one more. Next. The rest of you lot, go home. I think we got what we need. Try again next time we're in town.
In walks a hulk of a man, shaved and groomed impeccably. In my younger years, he would have made me nervous. Since then, I've dealt with many young punks.
Lucky you, you're the last of the day.
He takes his hat off and introduces himself.
Good day, ma'am. I'm here for a job with your entertainment outfit.
Take a seat, Muscles. Just so you know, we already have a strongman.
I'm not here for that position. You see, well, I'm a lycanthrope.
I've been accused of being a misanthrope, but what exactly is the lichen variety?
Shush. We also already have Wolf Boy, who suffers from trichosis.
That's nice, but I'm real. I'm a real werewolf.
Oh, crime in Sicily. That came out more audibly than I meant to. I got the side eye from the both of them.
My story is tragic, long, and storied.
Well, you better get yapping. It's getting late.
I come from a place far away from here. Somewhere in, let's say, Europe. Let's call it the old country.
But your accent, you sound native to this city.
I've had a long time to adapt. I settled here about 60 years ago or so.
You don't look a day over 30.
Yeah, my condition seems to have granted me long life. I am not immortal. I don't think so, at least.
I roll my eyes behind my paper.
Better send your secretary home and order some food. This has piqued my interest.
The old country is beautiful, green and lush in spring and summer, mild falls. In winter, the snow-topped hills line the horizon. Beautiful land. That place holds my heart, along with another. I was an average boy, an only child. Did okay in school, but didn't excel in anything. I was to become a farmer like my father. I looked up to him, and I loved the farm. People sometimes fight their destiny, but I was happy where I was and where I was going. And then there was Rose. Red flowing hair that would put the seventh circle of hell to shame. Eyes so blue you need a life raft to find yourself out of them. I was such a shy boy. When we first met, she came right up to me, and we talked like we were long lost friends. She was my flower. At 20, we were set to be married, but I will get to that.
She sure sounds like a special lady.
Yes. Everything was going according to plan. I was set to lead the farm and give my father some more time to enjoy life while he was still relatively young. My mother died giving birth to me, and he vowed never to take another woman's hand. I kept at him since he was so lonely. He was starting to come around to the idea of having another companion.
The doorbell rang and I left to answer it. I returned laying a paper bag containing 3 cartons of chop suey and frosty bottles of pop. And we divvied up our food.
Oh, much obliged. Our main crop was wheat, but we had all kinds. Corn, barley, and this rye-type plant called triticale. It started when I was still a kid. We would hear things deep in the wheat fields about once a year. A violent symphony of guttural screams. Not of man or any beast that I've heard. We dare not go in under the dark suffocation of night. The next morning we find animals, or what used to be, circles tamped out in the field with gobs of flesh and fur littered about. Bones snapped like toothpicks. Once we found a fresh deer skull completely crushed.
I stuck my chopsticks in my food and laid it down on the side table.
My father seemed almost ashamed and kept it a secret for some reason. After years and years of this happening like clockwork, my father had enough. He was older but strong from a lifetime of manual labor. He said no more would he let the sanctity of his home be spoiled. He lit a torch and took a large hand axe and told me not to follow him no matter what I heard. Into the field he disappeared. No crickets. No rustling stalks. No more hell screams in the distance. It was as if nature itself was holding its breath in anticipation. It was the longest 30 minutes of my life.
What happened next?
The wheat parted and he emerged, battered and bloodied, but very much alive. He said he met a demon in the field that night. The crop their Colosseum. It grabbed his torch from behind flame first, extinguishing it. It was not phased. Before even the smell of burnt hair registered in his nostrils, it stood before him. It was as big as a bear on hind legs, angry as one too. By the light of the full moon, its eyes glowed a sickly yellow.
I peeked out the side of my newspaper. This guy might be a #1 candidate for the funny farm, but he sure tells a captivating story. He should work for the pictures.
It raised its curled claws up in the moonlight and it came down swiftly, slashing my father, leaving 4 aligned gashes across his chest. And then it was on. It was graceful in the darkness. The only sounds that rang in my father's ears was his own heavy breath. He wrestled with his beast twice his size, but he was putting up a fight. It was a pace he knew he couldn't keep up. By the grace of Gup and Gip, he sank the axe right into the meat of the beast's thigh, opening up a major artery. It was the only time he heard it grunt.
Sally looked on enthralled, completely lost in his story.
Frothy teeth sank square into my father's shoulder. He pulled the axe out of the beast's leg like some kind of macabre King Arthur, and all he could remember was flailing with everything he had left. He was victorious. The beast laid lifeless in the crumpled wheat. My father retreated. I dressed my father's wounds and put him to bed. I tossed and turned all night, but was able to get some sleep. My father slept until late afternoon. Unprecedented. When he finally awoke, I pressed him about going to the field. I wanted to see it. He knew I wasn't going to relent, so he insisted he go with me. There was certainly a fight in the field that night. It looked like a murder scene, but there was no corpse. I could track it coming in for 10 yards, but not out. Where did it go?
Spooky.
The next couple years were mostly uneventful. Nothing stirred in the fields except what we planted. I noticed some changes in my father. His shoulders widened, his salt and pepper darkened. He had a youthful glow about him, but he was still himself by all accounts. He was happier than I've seen him in a long time, and he started seeing a woman from town. I was 20 now. I had become a man in my own right. I was set to marry Rose, and my father wasn't going to be alone anymore.
Tell me about Rose. What was she like?
She was beautiful as I've ever seen, voluptuous and passionate. We tried to wait for marriage, but it was a fool's errand. When we made love, it was as if our spirits danced with and through each other above us. She wanted a large family, and I was going to make that a reality for her. Anything for my flower, Rose. She was also smart and talented. Took to anything once she put her mind to it. She had become a school teacher, which made sense. Patience was something that came naturally to her. She was able to tame the most troubled youth. Not only was she loved by me, but also by her students and all of the community.
Please tell me you married Rose. Please tell me she lived happily ever after.
The week leading up to our wedding, she radiated life force. Everything was falling into place, and I was the happiest I had ever been. We had agreed not to see each other 3 days before we walked down the aisle. The day before we were to be wed, I was working a farm with my father. He was feeling under the weather, so I told him to go to the house and I'll take care of the rest. And then I heard it. I was confused at first. Like a phantom sound I haven't heard in a lifetime. But it had only been a few years. The screams I used to hear deep in the wheat fields. This close it sounded more like a howl. I grabbed my pitchfork and I ran towards the house. There laid Rose on the front porch, her body lifeless. A basket of food strewn about. She couldn't wait any longer to see me and had come to surprise me with supper.
No.
I heard glass breaking and rummaging through the house. With pitchfork in hand, I ran towards the sound. The demon my father spoke of had returned. It stood 8 feet tall on its digitigrade legs, an unholy visage of a bipedal wolf. It had killed my bride-to-be. It faced me, and I saw red. I dropped the pitchfork and I lunged on top of the beast. I choked the life out of it with my bare hands as it gnashed its frothing maw toward my face. I watched his eyes go glassy and I let go. As I turned to run the rose, it jumped up disoriented and latched onto my arm with its steel-trapped jaws.
He pointed to his arm where a faded scar was, and it could have been anything.
I was able to reach the pitchfork and I speared it in the face with the blunt end. It released its grip. I raised the pitchfork and I plunged it square in its heart. I watched in horror as his wolf and demon metamorphosed in front of my eyes into the corpse of my father. I ran to my rose. Neck snapped. There was nothing that could be done. She was gone.
Sally looked on with tears in her eyes, trying to choke out words but was unable.
My father had just killed Rose and I had just killed my father. No one would believe what happened here. I placed sheets over their remains, not affording myself a moment to grieve. I quickly packed a bag and I ran.
You poor man.
She was finally able to croak out a sentence.
I theorized my father saw the same thing. He snuck back into Wheatfield after his grisly showdown, carried the human corpse off the scene and buried it, covered his tracks. How could he explain it to anyone?
I walked over to Sally and handed her my handkerchief, assuring her it's clean. She dabbed her eyes and blows her nose.
My suspicion that this affliction has been passed to me was confirmed in the coming months. My muscle mass seemed to have doubled, despite living hand to mouth on the road. I was able to survive as a day laborer in whatever town I was in that week. It was no problem getting hired for a big guy like me. There's nothing magical about my sickness. I believe it to be very much biological. It's not what you read in scary stories. Full moon has nothing to do with it. Silver, this was to be my wedding ring.
He held up his ringed pointer finger.
No effect. There seems to be an incubation period which fooled us into a false sense of security. After it had taken hold, I speculate there is a hormone that builds up in your body. It takes about a year to trigger a flare-up. This is just conjecture since this isn't something that they write about in medical books. I have become attuned when the change is going to come on and I plan accordingly. I'm able to live a relatively normal life without murder. This year I turned 120. Any case would be long closed by now. I'm ready to go back and face my tragedies. Back to the only place I was happy. Back to Mulgrave.
100 years ago and across the drink? That's out of my jurisdiction.
Sir, that was something else. You are hired. If I'm any indication, this story will have our patrons bawling their eyes out and tugging at their purse straps. You can start tomorrow.
She stood and walked around the desk and embraced him. Her flowing blouse dropped from her shoulder to reveal a crude Lotus tattoo in black ink. I hate to break up this warm moment, but it's late and I'm out of cigarettes and I want to go home. Good night. I look at the window at the empty nest and the fire escape across the way. I watch over the past few months as the pigeon progeny went from egg to squab to adult and they took off to God knows where. I take a seat tapping the postcard that came today on my desk. It seems that Sal and our mystery man eloped. Took off on a steamship to the wild blue yonder. One quack after another. As long as the check's clear, a job's a job. Good for them though. If they can find happiness and strengthen each other in these unlikely circumstances, there's hope for us yet.
Voice acted by, in order of appearance, J. Henry as Canary P.I., Jennie Dyer as Canary's mother, Alex Tong as Sally Sutcliffe. Written, directed, and edited by J. Henry. Music by Pedro Esparza, Kevin MacLeod, and Vivek Abhishek. Further information in details below. For information on collaborating, contributions, or just want to keep up on the current scoop, follow us at twitter.com/RPCanaryPI. This concludes the broadcast. Presenting Canary P.I. in The Curse of the Cadavers, a J. Henry production. When your suds are duds, reach for Duke's detergent, now with extra bovine tallow.
Plumes of smoke erupt over my wool-brimmed silhouette. I like to sit in the dark, where the dangerous and grotesque reside. Sometimes I feel I'm in good company that way. One of these days I might go too far, get in over my head, or even worse, get someone else hurt. But that day isn't today. There's too much work left to do, too much filth to sadly capitalize on, too much bread to be made to finally settle down in that beachfront cottage. Yeah, one day I'll put my feet up and watch those salty tomatoes grow. Snap out of it, RP. One of these days you won't come out of it. One of these days, you won't come out of the dock. The phone rings and I click on my desk lamp and I pick up the receiver. What do you got for me?
Mr. Morrey of Morrey's Mortuary is here to see you.
Send him in. I take a deep drag from my cigarette and tamp it out in my crowded ashtray. The knob turns and in comes a short, stocky, nebbish fellow, donned with a pencil-thin mustache and a sharp comb-over of futility.
Hello. My name is Mick Morrey.
Why don't you take a seat and tell me what vexes you?
I don't know how to say this. I'm sure you've heard about the rash of robberies and cat burglaring. It's been all over the news for weeks.
Sure have. They coined the nickname the Bauble Bandit. Strikes in the dead of night.
Dead. I have reason to believe it's not done by one person.
If this guy claims to be a leader of a crime syndicate, I'm buying this guy a bus ticket. Destination? Funny Farm. Tell me what you know, Mr. Morrey.
As you know, I am a mortician. I do everything, soup to nuts, embalming to casket doilies. Months back, I noticed strange things happening with my clients.
I lit a Lucky and held out the pack. He shook his head.
Now, I am good at my job, but sometimes after preparing the bodies, I'd notice strange things when I returned the next morning. Dirt under the fingernails, grass stains on the cuff of the pants, old motor oil on soles. A decent mortician would never overlook such things.
I'm just a private eye. What do I know about the funeral business? Why'd you come to me?
Mr. Canary, you know of the cat burglar stories. You can't escape them. I know it sounds crazy, but it appears that my clients, like some of the deceased I've worked on, are rising up in the night to commit these crimes.
You're right. This does sound crazy. I'm sorry, but I don't think we can work together. And I'll be calling the whirly bus for a size 42 straitjacket, I thought to myself. Mr. Morrey held out his clenched fist and released a handful of diamonds and gold doubloons, landing in a clatter on my desk.
How do you think I got these? Do you think I could afford it? Do I look like I could pull off these crimes? There's more back at my business. I don't want anything to do with ill-gotten fortunes. If I went to the cops, they'd lock me up faster than you could say 23 skidoo.
I don't believe in undead ghouls traipsing around in the dead of night to pull off jewel heists.
Neither do I.
Against my better judgment, I'm gonna take this case, but my fees are doubled, up front and in cash. Listen here, you have 48 hours. If I don't find any evidence of foul play or bogeyman in the night, you turn yourself in and you let the coppers sort this out. Otherwise, you walk out this door and I give you a head start before I call this in. This is the best I can do.
But, Mr. Canary, I can't explain when it's going to happen again.
Them's the terms. I don't think you'll get a better offer.
Understood. I accept.
Get this off my desk. Do not walk around with this stuff. You got a safe? Lock it away. Does anyone know about this stuff? Your kin, your mailman, your podiatrist, I mean anyone.
No one.
I have your card. You'll be hearing from me very soon. Pay the secretary on your way out. Now put an egg in your shoe and scramble. I flick my desktop lamp off and sink back into my chair. Only the soft cherry glow of my cigarette faintly illuminating my face. Get your ducks in a row now. Just 2 days to exonerate an innocent man or perhaps solve the mother of all cases. Could there really be a connection here? Taking down the Bauble Bandit. Those are the kind of scores that make careers. Those are the kind of scores that make sandy feet and octagonal shade. Let's put these size 12s to the concrete. First matter of business, let's cover the basics. Sleuthing 101. Let's knock on some doors and get a feeling for you, eh, Mickey?
Mick Morrey? Yeah, sure I know him. Say, you a cop? Let me see your badge. Private investigator? I don't know nothing about that. Good day, sir. Yeah, I've seen Mick around. Mostly keeps to himself. Seems nice enough, that's all I know.
You here to deliver the ice? Where's the ice?
Oh, Mick Morrey. Well, You better come in and sit down. Do you like tea?
Just the elixir I need to warm my bones. Would love some, dear. Bingo.
My name is Lynda Valentine. I've lived on this street for many years. What's your business with Mick, Mr. Canary? Is he okay?
I've been hired by an anonymous party to check up on him. He's fine. He's not in any trouble, I assure you. Yet, I thought to myself.
Well, Mick is a very special person to me. When my dear husband Rupert departed 3 years ago, we worked so hard all our lives just to get by. I couldn't afford funeral services. We have no kids, not much family. The bank wants nothing to do with me with little security.
I made notes on my leather-faced notepad, being careful to remain attentive and not to interrupt.
Well, I was ready to bury Rupert in a plain pine box up on Potter's Field, but Mick stepped right in. He said hard-working people deserved a dignified end, a dignity that wasn't awarded in life, a king's funeral for a pauper's price. For that, I will always be grateful to that man. I'm sure you'll find similar stories if you dig deep enough. I don't think anyone will give you the time of day if they think it'll incriminate him. He's a treasure to this town. He even makes sure my walkway is shoveled in the winter, and I bring him Mama's meatballs every Sunday. It's the least I can do.
Thank you very much, Miss Valentine. I think I've heard all I need. Oh, lovely tea. No, don't get up. I'll let myself out.
Good day, Mr. Canary.
I've canvassed most of the neighborhood now. One thing Miss Valentine was right about is that I have been getting the cold shoulder. One thing you learn in this line of business is how to read people. Some were on the level. Some were feeding me lines so fat you could hang your laundry on them. I arrive at Morrey's mortuary, a ground floor business with an apartment on the second story. A modest property with neatly kept shrubbery. A dignified sign at the front that read, "In sorrow not I will be, for the end is not, 'tis of thee." I ain't one for sappy consolations, but whatever puts a feather in your cap.
Ah, yes. I've been expecting you. I've been getting many calls that you've been asking around town for me.
Just doing my job. Let's take a look around. Show me the scene of the crime.
Right this way, sir. You are standing in the parlor, where we greet guests and where they can talk before going into the viewing room.
To the right, there's 2 doors and a hallway.
This is the powder room, and this is the utility closet.
A commode, mop, and buckets. Story checks out.
If you will follow me, I will show you the viewing room.
We walked down the short hallway that led to an ornate door.
And this is the viewing room.
It was nicer than I expected. Persian rugged floors, chairs neatly lined up. A curtain over the back wall with religious bric-a-brac leaned up against it.
We serve all denominations here and dress the room to their needs. Behind this curtain is a door downstairs to the embalming area, and the lift for the bringing the deceased up and down.
I jot a few things down on my notepad. Half the time I'm writing nonsense, but it keeps people focused and on their toes. Downstairs, let's go.
And this, Mr. Canary, is where the magic happens, where I prepare the cadavers as they come in. This is also a place of interest for your case.
This is where the phantom jewels appear?
Precisely. On a counter there, on the draining table. It's never in the same spot. One time, they even left various jewels in the light fixture. It looked like Barnum and Bailey in here. Kind of nice.
And over there?
That's where we keep our clients on ice as they come in and are prepared for viewing.
I'm afraid I'll have to see in there as well.
Pretty full right now, as you can see. Kinda a double-edged sword in my business. When crime and sorrow is booming, so am I.
Each body laid out on a stretcher with a thin white sheet draped over. Their grayish feet stick out like macabre mannequins in a line, each tagged, all clean. Why do these ones have black tags while the rest are white?
Those are for the indigent and unclaimed. I keep those until the state tells me prepare them for the potter's field. usually buried with a blank grave marker. Such a shame. Even if they're going in a box of raw pine, I give them every care I can give them. Maybe give them the respect they didn't get in life.
Coming in, I saw an apartment on the second story. That you?
It's not much, but it saves time on the commute. There's a separate entrance on the side of the building.
We do a quick walk around of his apartment. A quaint bachelor pad complete with soup cans on the kitchen counter and an overflowing hamper. A far cry from the neatness of his business. I tell you what's gonna happen. We're gonna stake out this building for the next 2 nights. You better hope to come back to the Bauble Bandit or jolly old St. Nick in cuffs. I can't have you anywhere near this place. Take this card and go to the address listed. You'll be staying under the name Joseph Lewis.
Joe Lewis, like the boxer.
That's the one. Once you're in the room, you stay in. You need a couple salami sandwiches, then you better plan accordingly. I will have eyes on you, so no funny business. I stopped by my office to grab my thermos and binoculars. Secretary long gone by now. I turned on the radio to catch the end of the 9 o'clock news.
Clouds coming in from the west with mild temperatures going into the morning. Chance of intermittent showers. And now we go to the chief of police for the ever-developing Bauble Bandit saga.
It's been 4 days since there's been a robbery. We don't have any reason to believe he will even strike again. Museums, banks, and other places of interest are now at heightened levels of security. He doesn't seem to hit residential areas, but all the same, lock your doors, windows, and take proper precautions. We assume he is armed and dangerous. We are very busy. That will be all.
I clicked the radio off and I was out the door. Gonna be a long night. I pulled up to Morrey's and parked across the street next to a Buick Roadster. Collar pulled up, hat pulled down, fresh pack on the dash, newspaper unfurled. Except I'm not reading. Ever vigilant, keeping this bird's eye on the task at hand. A stray cat pawing out the garbage cans. A hazed hobo and his bindle making his way towards the train tracks. Nothing. Not a damn thing all night. I arrive at the hotel to collect our dearest Mick. Same there, not a peep. We head back to Morrey's. I tell him to open up and we both go inside. We walk through the parlor, down the hall into the viewing room. Nothing out of place. Then down the stairs to Mick's laboratory. Looks like nothing's out of place. Wait one hot minute. In the corner was a cold metal chair. Dead center against the back laid a single gold coin, mocking me. Where did this come from? Yesterday I made it a point for you to walk out in front of me. Now you better start being straight with me.
Mr. Canary, for the life of me, I don't know.
Open the icebox and stand aside. Without even stepping in, you could see a single mud print stretched out over the floor tiles, as if the perp was dragging its leg. I put a pair of rubber gloves and I went up and down the line. 3 of them showed debris from the outside world. I grabbed Mr. Morrey by the collar and I get into his face. What is this? What, are you trying to make a fool of me? The dead stay dead. They don't steal priceless artifacts. I had my eyes on this place all night. No one came in or out. Not a creature was stirring.
Mr. Canary, I'm just as confused and have everything to lose. I don't know what is happening.
Here's what's gonna happen. We're gonna meet back here at 5 p.m. I'll get some chain and a padlock and I'll lock myself in here. I'll slide the key under the door and my partner who will be running surveillance on the outside. If nothing goes bump in the night, well, you explain to the judge. I reach into my inner pocket of my trench and pull out a thin case containing some tricks of the trade. I do a quick dusting of the gold coin, doorknobs, and any points of interest. All clean as a hound's tooth. Time for me to get 40 winks. Go back to the hotel and make yourself at home. I had to call in some favors to get some fresh eyes on things, but everything's covered. I go back to my office. I keep a cot in it for when I'm working late nights. I don't want to get too comfortable. Make sure I'm up by 4. Hold all calls. I barked at my secretary. She shrugged and nodded. I was asleep before my head hit the pillow. Maybe I'm getting too old for the grindstone. In my salad days, I could do 24 hours standing on my head. I was up my own and cleaned myself up in the office sink. The bachelor life, eh? I said to myself in the mirror, slapping my bristly cheek. I stopped at the hardware store on the way back to Morrey's. 1 lock, 1 key, all eyes on deck. I closed the door to the embalming room behind me with a loud thud. sealing myself in like my own crypt. I slid the key under the door to my associate. Now listen, there's a window in here you can see from the street. If I need out before morning, I'll flick the lights 3 times. Come lock and loaded just in case.
You got it, Canary.
I settle in for the night. I lay a packet of saltines and a small log of summer sausage on the draining table. I place my trench coat in the back of the cold metal chair, revealing my shouldered 6-shooter. I open today's newspaper. Bauble Bandit strikes again on the cover. Read the whole damn paper. Some articles twice. Need to stretch. Opened the cabinet containing various beakers and liquids. What'll it be, RP? Saline or formaldehyde? Just coffee for me, beer tender. I'm on the clock. Yeah, you're losing it, Canary. Getting to the end of the witching hour now. Time is running out for you, Mickey. Sounds like it's really coming down out there. With a crack of thunder, the lights go out. I get to my feet, but I trip forward, tethered by some unseen means. I get to my feet, wobbled, and I paw at my ankles. It's a chain. The lights come back on with a flick of the light switch. Standing next to the door is a man in one of the modesty sheets for the corpses, wrapped around him toga-like, pale and not a scratch of hair on any of his exposed skin, staring back at me blankly. Who are you? You better start talking fast, cue ball. With an explosion of flamboyancy, he started his rant.
Mr. Canary, you are in the presence of the great Panini.
Does that come with a dill pickle, Jack? Upon further investigation, the chain is only loosely bounded around my ankles. I am easily able to just step out of them.
I am the greatest showman that no one will ever hear of. I have learned from the best. Gurus, swamis, yogis, occultists, magicians, Yelvediras, how was it said? Escapologists?
He threw the padlock at my feet.
I could have easily escaped you, but to be quite honest, I was bored. I'm not a cat burglar by trade. I just sort of fell into it. It comes so easily to me, and because of my vocation, I can never take any credit for my work. I have traveled all over the world, and I look for these hard luck cases, and I take wealth and I sprinkle it on them. Mick Morrey is always a few pennies away from disaster. He does so much for his community. Hard luck cases all over the city, and I sprinkle a little magic all over them. One less Duesenberg in the garage for a big man in a suit. Life-changing fortune to deserving.
Why'd you keep coming back here? The first handful of jewels would have set him up for life.
I needed a home base. This is as good as any. You see, through meditation and breathing exercises, I am able to slow my heart to an infinitesimal amount. To everyone else, I am dead. To me, I am taking a nap.
You were hiding as a black tag.
That is right.
What was with the zombie subterfuge?
As I said, I am quite bored. It was amusing to me.
This all sounds like the makings of a good bedtime story, but you know I can't let you go. I reached for my belly gun and I pointed at him, retracting the hammer. Stick him up or I'll put daylight through you.
Canary, tisk tisk.
He outreaches his hand over a wastebasket and drops 6 bullets. What in blue blazes? I've dealt with all caliber of pickpockets. When the lights were out, there wasn't enough time. This gun never leaves my side. Panini outreaches his other hand and seemingly makes an ace of diamonds appear out of thin air. He flicks it my general direction. He put both hands in front of his face, opening and closing them in a peekaboo fashion, each time flashing a different hairstyle. Mutton chops, thin mustache, bushy gray beard. Hey, that looks like the hobo from last night. He landed on a modest pompadour with a goatee.
Now, Canary, I make my grand exit.
He raised both hands and gyrates his fingers towards the doorknob.
Alakazam!
He anticlimactically reaches over and turns the doorknob and walks out and up the stairs. I race after him to find him standing in the viewing room, now in a gray suit, shaking his finger at me.
Meow.
A puff of smoke enveloped him. He was gone. I ran outside and looked both ways up and down the street. Not a thing. The sun was starting to peek up over the hazy horizon. Did anyone come out of the building?
No one.
Give me a gun. Go to the hotel and get Mick and bring him back here.
Okay.
I jog around the building and re-enter, keeping my ears and eyes perked. I checked the floor to see 2 crumpled ping-pong-like orbs mashed into the carpet where he disappeared. I step back down to the embalming room. A drab painting on the wall hangs askew, revealing a safe with the door ajar. Picked clean. With the tip of a pencil, I turned over the playing card that Panini flicked at me earlier to reveal a joker. At the same time, I heard the front door slam. Just as I thought, he was still in the building. Too late to catch him now, and no eyes on him to boot. He's good. I dust around the scene of the crime while I wait for Mick to arrive. Not a damn thing. Clean as a conductor's whistle. Mick stumbles in with worry painted all over his face.
What happened in here? Mr. Canary, are you all right? Why is there bullets in my trash?
Mr. Morrey, I cannot begin to explain what happened tonight, but I will try. He looked completely befuddled and laughed out loud at parts. It ended with him looking at me like I had 3 heads. There's nothing to report because there's no evidence except this pristine poker card. You're free to go. I don't want to see you or a place like this for another 50 years. I saw all the worry wash from his face.
I must retire now. I did not get any rest for the past 2 days. Thank you, Mr. Canary. Thank you.
Morrey locked up his business and quickly goes around and up to his apartment. As he pulls the cover off his bed, he finds a sack with a comically large $sign on it. Scribbled on the playing card read,
Do some good with this. Your pal, P.
Voice acted by, in order of appearance, J. Henry as Canary P.I., Frank Guglielmelli as Mick Morrey, Jennie Dyer as Lynda Valentine, Price Burton as Panini. Written, directed, and edited by J. Henry. Music by Pedro Esparza, Kevin MacLeod, and Vivek Abhishek. Further information in details below. For information on collaborating, contributions, or just want to keep up on the current scoop, follow us at twitter.com/RPCanaryPI. This concludes the broadcast. Presenting Canary P.I. in The Phantom Physicist, a J. Henry production. Hattie's shoehorns, now made with durable Bakelite. The future is now.
Yeah, I grumble a lot. They may be mind-numbing and not always the most lucrative, but those infidelity cases are my bread and butter. I miss the Hank Panky smooching on Blondie from the malt shop while wifey's home alone with the kids. Yeah, open and shut. If I'm caught in my surveillance, I pretty much know all the tricks in the book to quell the situation. Safe, compared to some of these cases that come to me on the regular. Sometimes you have to take a job pro bono. I know how some poor souls can get lost in the system, as I was a part of it. If Ma and her kids can get a fresh start, well... What do you got?
Mrs. Ursula Conan here to see you. Your favorite. Suspected adultery.
Alright, send her in. The door to my office opened and she closed it gently behind her. She was short and Rubenesque, pale, with wavy brown hair that fell over both shoulders.
I never thought I'd be in this position. I need some help.
Take a seat and tell me what vexes you.
My husband, he's just gotten so distant. He used to come home right after work. Now it's excuse after excuse. Short-staffed at the hospital. An old college buddy of his is in town, getting a tune-up on the Chevy. It's never-ending.
A man of medicine, eh?
He sure is. My husband is a brilliant man. Used to be a scientist for the government.
What kind of scientist?
I couldn't say. He was always vague. Said it was for my protection.
Yeah, I can relate.
He was a valued mind for the higher-ups for many years. It made him miserable, so he left. I'm just trying to illustrate. If you go toe-to-toe with him, he's not some two-bit hood. He can be very clever when he wants to be.
You leave the gumshoeing to me, sweetheart.
I have done some of my own investigating. As much as I want to believe his lies, I'm not a dumb woman. I have tailed him and remained unseen. He is not running errands or staying late at work. He goes to some apartment building downtown. Stays for hours at a time.
And you need me to confirm your suspicions.
Yes, I need the whole truth.
If I take this job, I'm not going to sugarcoat what I find. Are you prepared?
Yes, I told you. I just need to know.
Are you a mother, Mrs. Iconian? How's your bankroll? We have payment plans. Even if you can't cover that, we can work with you.
Yes, I have 2 little boys. I could pay you for 3 days.
I'll make it work, I thought to myself. I'll need 2, max.
Thank you, Mr. Canary.
I'll just need a name, a description, and the address to the Lonely Hearts Cooperative. She gave me everything I needed to know. Even if he was some highfalutin government scientist, it's as textbook as they come. I just hate to tell her what he's doing with his Bunsen burner after hours. I can sympathize, really I can. I'm not as heartless as I seem sometimes. I'm just not good with that stuff. Yeah, I'm no head shrinker. You'll be hearing from me soon. I wish you all the luck. She stood up and shook my hand across my desk. She turned her back, and as she walked out, I heard a muffled sniffle through her cupped face. She was composed by the time she walked through the door of my office. Easy now. Can't let her bother me. A job's a job. I try to be impersonal as I can for these cases. As long as there's desire and loose scruples, there'll always be birdseed for all RP. Have Casanova, who will flourish. I was already at the apartment complex earlier that evening, casing the joint out. People coming and going in the systematic chaos of rush hour. Soon the streets will wind down and decent folk will be settled with their pot roast in front of the idiot box. Until it's time to turn in and start it all over the next morning. I never really liked the set schedule all that much. I find these after-hour rendezvous with precarious certainties to be the spice of life. Tall, bespectacled, kinda gangly, slicked coal black hair, slim leather briefcase. Here comes Loverboy now. I emerged from my car, donned in navy blue overalls, a tool belt decorated with his namesake, paper bag in hand. Walking straight at him from the opposite direction, I accidentally bumped into him, spilling the contents of the bag all over the ground in front of him. A quart of hopelessly sticky pine tar.
Watch where you're going, will ya? Look what you've done. These shoes are only 2 weeks old.
Acting like a complete klutz, I tangled his limbs up in mine. It was a real slapstick scene. Oh, sorry, sir. Just rushing us over the job site while there's still a little daylight left. Leaky roofs, you know?
Lovely. Now if you'll excuse me.
Now hold on, I'll help you. I bent down with a hanky to futilely wipe the bottom of his shoes, just making him trip into the black sludge some more. In my flailing about, I knocked his suitcase to the ground with the back of my hand, spraying it open, containing only a thick, well-used notebook and a flask.
No, there won't be Just go away. You're making everything worse.
Say, you got a nickel for the payphone? The doctor just grunts and walks away. That line is just for my amusement. Always gets him. A notebook and a small bottle of hooch. No French perfume or satin undergarments wrapped in a bow. I'll have to go a little deeper for evidence. I walk around the block in a meandering way, then back to my car to make sure I'm not seen. I rip off my overalls, revealing my suit underneath. I lace up a fresh pair of Oxfords and I'm reunited with my trench coat. Hat on, collar up, sunk into seat. I wait another hour. The street's slowing down. People still coming in and out of the apartment building, but I won't know anything until I get closer. It's time to go in. I walk up to the building under the cover of night. An older woman fumbling with 2 bags of groceries. She accepts my offer to help and we walk right past the doorman. I take note of the direction of the scuffed up floors. We'll take a paint scraper and a couple of washes before that stuff comes off. Works like a charm when subtlety isn't a factor. The lady offers a tip, but I decline. I follow the trail upstairs. Room 32. 3rd floor, 2 rooms in. Got it. I tip my hat to the doorman, not making eye contact, as I exit the building. I walk around the side and under the cover of night slip into the alleyway. I stack up a couple of sweaty crates. Standing on my tippy toes, I'm able to grab and lower the ladder of the fire escape. I swiftly ascend up the entanglement of rusty metal. Not bad, old man. You still got it. This should be it. Totally blacked out window. Can't sense any movement inside. I encase myself in my black trench coat and wait. A sickly sweet and pungent smell wafts into my nose, like ozone. I take out my Zippo and, under the flap of my jacket, I hold it up to my pocket watch as to not be seen. It's about time now. I put my ears to the glass. It's faint and muffled, but I hear a phone ring.
What? I'm not expecting any delivery. Fine. I'll be right down.
Right on time. 35 pounds of mackerel defrosting on their lobby floor should keep him busy for a while. I jimmy the window open and enter. This was no love nest. No way this was up to code. Lines of bubbling beakers and graduated cylinders filled with all colors of the rainbow. Blue electricity writhing and curling up the probes of a Tesla coil. Wooden boxes faced with unmarked knobs and switches. This was a makeshift laboratory. This case just got a whole lot more interesting, eh, Canary? I spot the notebook open next to a bunch of glass bric-a-brac. I fan through the mathematical equations and crude sketches littered about the dog-eared pages. I land on a page with a featureless silhouette of a person with more scientific jargon scribbled in the margins. I don't know what any of this is. I hear heavy steps coming up the stairs outside. Already? Damn. I don't have enough time to make heads or tails of this. I'll have to take it back to my office. He'll know someone was here. No choice now. I tucked the book into my inside pocket and I was out the window, closing it behind me as to not make a sound. I hear smashing of equipment and curse words as I was descending the side of the building like some kind of caped crusader. I briskly walked to my car and I got the hell out of there. Back in my office, I am able to look closer at the notebook. It contains some alarming passages.
I was fresh out of college. Green, with stars in my eyes. Getting a doctorate in physics wasn't something everyone could do. It didn't come easy. But I was valedictorian. I had many job offers, but one that caught my eye was a government job working for the Defense Department. And after a short time of consideration, I accepted. It was exciting. I felt like I was making a difference. I could help propel our country forward with cutting-edge technology, and I wouldn't have to worry about getting my hands dirty. I was wrong. You see, most of the time you didn't even know what you were working on. They'd move you around to different projects in various degrees of completion. You'd figure out a specific problem and on to the next you went. This was done on purpose, so you never knew the big picture. Operation Templeton was one they were stalled out on for years. I was briefed on it more than any other project before. Real cloak and dagger spy stuff. A kind of camouflage never attempted before. Sounded right out of H.G. Wells. They hypothesized that complete human invisibility was not only possible, but they were successful. With adverse side effects. In summary, the report read like this. Eric Schmidt was the first person to head it up. He was allowed to stay on the project longer than protocol since he was their star scientist. He grew obsessive. He claimed he was closest to the biggest discovery of humankind since fire. He got it to the animal testing phase, which was a feat in itself. After many unsatisfactory outcomes, he got it to work. Templeton, the rat, was his name. It was in the file that the rodent went completely transparent and re-emerged, unharmed. More tests were ordered. He wouldn't listen. He felt it was ready for human testing and he was going to be the guinea pig. Allegedly. He administered the drug to himself and made notes of his vitals. Nothing. He took another dose and waited. He was starting to feel something. This is where his colleague ran in and explained the rest. It started with his hand. It pulsed with transparency, flashing in and out of existence like some kind of interdimensional being. It spread to the rest of his body, blinking in and out. He screamed bloody murder. He completely disappeared and then silence. 5 minutes passed and a primordial-like sludge appears on the floor in his stead. It was conclusive that the formula was not successful in humans. He was so close. My methods of purification have done it. A human being is able to attain invisibility through my new and improved serum, with minimal side effects. Just one more trial. Not much time now. My interim formulas got the intended effect, but the cellular degeneration was still there, only slower. I am a marked man. Soon I will be nothing but a pile of slime like the doctor before me.
I hear a rustling in my front office. We're closed. Come back in the morning. My door flung open and it was Dr. Aconian holding a knife to his wife's throat. I motioned to my holstered gun.
Now don't reach for anything. The book, Canary. I need the book back. You've no idea how dangerous it is in the wrong hands.
Mister, you're in way deep now. Now just think this through. No one has to get hurt.
The book! Now!
I had no shot. Can't endanger the lady. You got it, Doc. Now let the lady go. I throw the book at his feet, and he pushed Ursula forward into my arms. By the time I drew my gun, he was out the building. Are you okay? Call the cops. Now. Send them to the apartment building.
I'm fine. Go!
I ran and turned the corner, tripping over a pile of clothing. I get to my feet and look up and down the block. Nothing. A car suddenly peels away. I have to run the opposite direction to get to mine. He's going back to his lab. I spot his car, parked askew at the front. The doorman screaming into a phone. I run past him and up the stairs. An ectoplasm-like substance smeared on the floor every few steps. I draw my gun, and I kick the door in. There he was, naked as a jaybird amidst the bubbling and wafting fog of his experiments. Stick him up, Doc.
The final formula works. It's a success.
She's your wife. How could you?
This is more important than any one of us. I wasn't going to hurt her. You have to take the book. You can't let it get into the wrong hands. I don't have much time.
He throws the book at me and I catch it midair with my free hand.
FBI, put the gun down.
G-men. I raise my hand with my finger off the trigger and the book in the other. I'm a P.I. My paperwork's in my pocket. I'm on a case. This man held a knife to his wife's throat.
I'll be taking these while we get this sorted out.
They took my gun and the book, threw a blanket over the doctor. We were handcuffed and separated. They read through my papers, and I told them my story. They gave me my gun back, and I was free to go. Out in front of the building, dismantled pieces of his laboratory was being carried out in wooden crates. Dr. Aconian sitting in the back of an opened ambulance while someone was bent over checking his vitals. Feeling better, Doc? The street lamps glistened on his forehead. Before he was able to respond, a man poking and prodding him turns around, revealing a head of unruly gray hair, wearing welding goggles. At night.
Hallucinogens, Mr. Canary. It seems our enterprising patient has ventured into the drug business. After some rest at the rehabilitation clinic, he will be able to lead a normal life once again. He's in good hands.
Right. Well, my work here is done. The next morning, I'm trying to process what happened yesterday. After all, what did I see? A naked man and a whole lot of nothing. Wait a minute. Nah. You start thinking like that, you know what will happen. An all-inclusive trip to the funny farm.
Voice acted by, in order of appearance, J. Henry as Canary P.I, Rebecca H. as Ursula Aconian, Julian Gilas as Dr. Aconian, Frank Guglielmelli as Strange Doctor. Written, directed, and edited by J. Henry. Music by Pedro Esparza, Kevin MacLeod, and Vivek Abhishek. Further information and details below. For information on collaborating, contributions, or just want to keep up on the current scoop, follow us at twitter.com/RPCanaryPI. This concludes the broadcast. Presenting Canary P.I. in The Devil's Triangle, a J. Henry production. When hunger pangs come a-knocking at your door, tell them the vamoose. Reach for O'Leary's canned luncheon meat.
Emotions run like the sea, constantly churning in waves and currents, never relenting. an undulating fervor, then a displacement, revealing emptiness, followed by the unleashing of the tsunami roiling deep in us all, wishing you could take it back. We all have regrets, yet we don't pick up that phone, don't send that letter, don't build that life raft. One of the great mysteries of the human condition and the great deep. What do you got for me?
Mr. Dune is here to see ya.
Alright, send him in. The door opens sharply, and in walks a nautical-looking fellow, salt and peppered beard, walked with a cane and a slight limp on his otherwise sturdy frame.
Yar, I'm Duffel Dune of the SS Allspice, but you can call me Captain Duff.
Whatever you say, Cap. Why don't you take a seat and tell me what vexes you?
Oh, good. Say, I see you on me leg.
He pops it off and lays it across my desk, tapping it with his cane.
Genuine redwood, sturdy. Learned my lesson after I bought sea fleas eating up me first.
Please, that's not necessary. Put it back on. Dangerous working out in the ocean, eh?
Son, you respect the sea. If you don't, you're lucky if your leg is the only thing she takes.
Why don't you tell me why you're here?
Well, Mr. Canary, do you mind?
He takes out a pre-packed meerschaum from his pocket and a box of wooden matches. Not as long as you don't. I take a cigarette out of my crumpled pack.
As I was saying, I happen to own the biggest privately owned cargo ship from here to Timbuktu. We're a freelance shipping service. We ship everything, anything. Within the law, of course. You got 50 tons of doorknobs that you need to move, I've got a contract for you. The problem is, we've been arriving at our destinations with less product than we left with. You always account for damaged items or a missing crate or two. Flew off with the ferries, as we say, but there's usually a loading problem. Those crates were never there to begin with. It's been getting worse.
You think one of the deckhands are skimming off the top?
They're all good men, it's not as simple as that. Mr. Canary, these are wooden shipping crates, 8 feet high, 8 feet wide, stacked. Now you could maybe explain away 1 or 2 missing, but 5, 10, 15, where they going? That's a lot of ferries. It's gotten into me profits now.
I'll need complete access to your boat and your crew. How long you docked for?
I can't stop operations. I have contracts for months. You'll have to come aboard. I'll have you back in 4 days flat, fasten calico jack.
I'm no sailor. I keep my feet firmly planted on the ground.
I'll pay ye extra. Double and a half.
Done.
We leave on the morrow, 5 a.m. sharp. I'll have everything you need. Just bring the keen eye and that no-nonsense outlook.
Tomorrow morning, Canary flies with the gulls. I arrive at the pier the next morning at 5 a.m. on the dot, always punctual. It was only a short walk down the dock before I found his boat. It was 350 feet long, if not 500. SS Allspice marked on the side in a loud red. As I get closer, I make out a wooden facsimile of some kind of demon on the tip of the bow. 2 deep booming blows from their air horn alerted me. I saw someone at the top deck wave me forward. Walking up the steep ramp onto the ship causes my shins to burn. Getting older, Canary. Don't show that grimace.
Welcome aboard the Allspice. You must be Detective Canary. Right this way and I'll take you to Captain Duff.
I'm just a private dick, thank you. He walked up to what I assumed was the cockpit of the ship. 2 sharp knocks and we stepped in.
Well, come in, mate. You made it. That's just fine. Those landlubber legs will adjust in no time. You feel queasy? You just bite down on a piece of this.
He threw a small cloth sack that smelled like literal death.
It's all squid. Fermented, salted and dried. You keep that. I got plenty of it. It's my favourite snack. Go on, try it.
I'll be damned. Not half bad.
You make me laugh, Canary. Come here. Let me show you something.
He unraveled a weathered scroll, stained and moth-eaten.
Now look at these. All throughout history, Monstrum Marinum. You got your sea pan, satyr, triton, sea monk, Cecilia, siren, and serpents of all shapes and sizes.
Let me be up front with you. I'm not one for superstitions.
Oh, sure. But men of the sea sure are. Have you heard of the Bermuda Triangle, Mr. Canary?
Sure. I heard some cockamamie ghost stories from when that Amelia Earhart story swept the nation.
Ooh, some don't think it's so cockamamie.
Is this pertinent to the case, Mr. Dune?
Captain Duff, please. A few years ago, we had a shipment of parasols coming out of Miami. hit by a devil of a storm. The waves came in strong, slamming our ship against the dock. We sailed out about half a mile from shore to ride out the storm. It's rough, but standard practice. We were surrounded by a storm on all sides. Rogue wave almost capsized us. The further east we went, calmer the waters were. It was the only direction we could go. So east we went until we had diminishing returns. We set anchor. Nothing else we could do but hope for the best. We spent half the night bobbing and weaving, but the light was at the end of the tunnel. By sunup, it had passed. We'd survived with minor damage.
I don't have time for stories. You want this case dealt with? We need to move this along.
But you see, this has everything to do with it. We charted where we ended up. Unbeknownst to us, we covered right smack dab in the middle of the Bermuda Triangle. The Devil's Triangle. Some claim it to be traveling through other dimensions, or a time warp where ancient beasts past extinct still reside. Now, I don't completely buy all of that, but I do believe some places are just bad. This stretch of water surely felt wrong. The crew, the talk of a merman that followed us out. He haunts us, curses us, never letting us deliver a full bounty.
This actually does help me a bit to see what kind of thought processes I'm up against. What do you believe, Captain Duff?
Well, I don't know. I just know I had to do something. That's why you're here.
I look around the wood plank cabin, deciding where to go from here. My interest is grabbed by a large family portrait hanging the opposite of the wheel of the ship. Family?
Sure is. That's me father, Douglas. And my older brother, Dee. And me when I was the greenest greenhorn you'd ever did see. My father taught everything we needed to know and then some.
They're on board then?
Nay. The sea took them some time ago. My father went first, then my brother. Almost a year apart from the day.
Oh, I'm very sorry to hear that.
Yup. When me and Dee inherited the business, it was a golden age. Cash hand over fist. It was one of the best years of my life.
He trailed off, looking straight out the bow of the ship, lost in thought. Say, that's some pinata you got hanging off the front of the ship.
Oh, you mean our guardian gargoyle? You don't normally see figureheads on boats this modern, but I had to have it. Used to ward off bad juju. At least more is kind.
Looks like St. Lucifer to me.
Yeah, it sure does, mate.
I'll be having a look around now.
You find my first mate standing outside the door. He's at your disposal. Now, leave me to my work. We'll be setting out shortly. See you at chow at 4:30 sharp, where you'll be eating corn straight out of the tin.
First mate Calhoun, at your service.
He raised his karate-chopped hand to his forehead, saluting me. Oh, now, that's fine. Eddie's.
Excellent, sir. In that case, you can call me Cal. Where would you like to see first?
I walk up to the tip of the boat, surveying the dock and the scene that we'll soon be setting out on. Faced with the back of the head of the winged creature on the bow, I give it 2 sharp thumps with my index and middle finger.
Same as me peg leg. Solid redwood. I'll have to ask you not to touch. He's got his own job to do.
Snuck up on me without a sound. I smiled and waved him off. He threw a coiled rope over his shoulder and he was off.
He's just a little superstitious, don't mind him. He delegates most of the major maintenance, but insists on painting and lacquering it himself. Every 6 months, like clockwork.
Let's move. Show me where you keep your shipments.
This be the loading bay. Not sure how much Captain Duff told you, but here is where we stack the crates. 1 person on the pulley, 2 to swing and position them on the dolly. We set a wrap directly to the back of the trucks, and it's as simple as rolling it out. We've become so in sync that once we're in a rhythm, we can unload the whole thing in a couple of hours. Other crews would take half a day.
Impressive. Level with me, Cal. What's your opinion on this missing merchandise?
He tell you about riding out the storm in the Bermuda Triangle some years back.
He sure did, but let me level with you. I'm a man that deals with cold hard facts and not fanciful stories.
Something or someone followed us out. I'm sure of it. It curses us. This isn't a popular opinion, but I think it's in that devil out there. Riding with us. I hate that thing. Couldn't get something normal like Poseidon or a half-naked lady. He insists it scares off evil. I think he's got it all wrong.
There was only 2 levels to the ship, but it was vast. I took note of the points of interest. The engine room, full of greased and aching pistons. My sleeping quarters, which had a cot-like Murphy bed which swung from the wall. With it down, it couldn't hold much more than my small bag and a chamber pot. A minuscule jail cell in case someone on board dips into some bathtub hooch a little too hard. The galley where pots boiled away and the cook screamed obscenities. Most importantly, the turlet, where it had a lever with the bottom pivot out straight into the ocean. Yeah, that'll be all, Cal. I like to be on my own now.
We'll be shipping off any time now. Just ask around if you need anything. I'm not too hard to find.
4 deep bellows from the ship's horn reverberated through. The gargantuan mass of the ship started to move like an ancient creature awakening from its slumber.
Right on time. If you don't need me anymore, please excuse me. There's always work to be done around here.
The rest of the day was pretty uneventful. I settled up my things in my room and spent my time patrolling. Just watching how things had done. Skipped lunch and met up with the crew for dinner. Later that night is when things went awry.
Calhoun's gone mad. He grabbed an axe from the stern and headed towards the bow, screaming, "It's happening again!"
Me and a small posse ran towards the commotion and towards the wheelhouse. Its door laid ajar, with a disheveled Captain Duff turning levers and switches. He stuck his head out of a small circular window and screamed,
"We're circling around, all eyes on the water! Get the life preserver, now!"
We circled for over an hour. There was nothing. Nothing at all but the phantasmal waves of the nighttime sea.
He was there, standing with an axe raised over his head, and then he wasn't. Didn't even see him fall. Well, he must have.
There at the bow laid the axe, the figurehead missing the tip of its left pointed ear. Looks like he got a whack and tumbled over.
Oh, it looks that way, lad.
Someone ran over with a large jug uncorked and a tray of shooters.
To first mate Calhoun. May you be heaven half out before the devil knows you're dead.
I took the shot of rock gut, and they all threw their glasses to the ground, smashing them. I followed suit. We investigated the ship together. One crate was missing, and another was moved, halfway to the doors of the loading bay. There was 2 crewmates stationed there. One was on the outside in the doors on his feet, and one was inside on a chair. Claimed he nodded off for the past hour, but insisted any stirring would have woken him up. Things don't just disappear, not men or crates. Put someone else you trust at the doors, Duff. Someone you trust, and I mean it. I'll take guard duty on the inside for the rest of the night. I paced back and forth in what little space that wasn't loaded in. The rest of the night was uneventful, and no more merchandise went missing. I met up with the captain at sunrise. I found him pacing in the front of the boat, pensively puffing on his pipe. Say, Cap, how does someone as skillful as a first mate just fall overboard?
When the sea wants you, the sea will have you, lad. No different than what happened to McKinn. May yet happen to me.
He puffed his pipe even harder and walked back to the wheelhouse. It wasn't quite breakfast yet, but I was able to rustle up some bread and a small jar of olives from the galley. Not quite Saudis, but it'll do her. I went back to my bunk and slept for 3 hours. No full night's rest on a job like this. I woke up nauseous from the swaying of the boat and chewed some of the salted squid. Fixed me right up, just like Captain Duff said. I spent the day making it a point to have at least a few words with all the crew on board. Ask their name, how long they've been employed by this outfit, things like that. So I'd have my own confirmed manifest on who's on board to look into further when I'm back on land. Am I any closer to figuring this out? I have a few hunches, no strong leads. I am prideful over my track record, but there are cases that elude you. Some mysteries aren't meant to be solved, but I don't think this is one of them. It was nighttime again, where the foul and the wicked play. Hey guys, I'm gonna turn in early. I'm feeling a bit under the weather. I was careful to make a show of it, and make it well known around the boat and not go too overboard, which is maybe where I'll end up when this is said and done. I found a crate in the cargo bay with a loose lid. I was able to shimmy inside the straw stuffing and rolling pins that resided inside. 8 hours without smoke. That'll be the worst of it. I could see through the boards of the wooden box, but not well. It'll do. My hearing is still good. Ma always insisted I finish my vegetables. 4 hours had passed where a minor chiropractic issue was turning into new shingles for his roof. Something finally stirred. A familiar smell was strong enough to reach me through the container. It was pipe tobacco and salt squid. I waited to catch whatever was happening in the red of the hand. I could make out the pulley on the ceiling rocking and giving off smoke from the friction as something heavily thudded to the ground. I slowly lifted off the top covering me, being careful not to create a racket. There was Captain Duff, slowly pushing a crate to the loading doors that lead off the side of the ship. He was muttering something, but I couldn't make it out at first. I slowly crept up behind him, trying my best to stay out of his sight, This share. With each push, the dolly crate moved about 6 inches. He was half outside the doors and getting closer to the edge. With a final grand push, the crate went over the side of the boat and into the ocean. This share. He went back to the stack and dropped another crate into the dolly. This was not like the others. It shook and rocked like there was some kind of rabid animal inside. I unholstered my .38 and put him right in my sights. Stay right there, Captain Duff. He didn't even flinch. Kept on doing what he was doing. I walked closer. His eyes were half closed. I called out again. Captain Duff, stop right there. He seemed to be in some kind of fugue state. I've seen people at the funny farm with this affliction. Sleepwalking. More like dead walking. I got right up into his face and snapped my fingers. No reaction. Mr. Dune! Screw this. I tackled him to the floor and cuffed his hands behind his back. The banging in the crate was getting weaker. I stepped back and I took a running start, jutting my shoulder into the wood slats, shattering enough to see the contents. It was Calhoun, bound and gagged. I pulled the rag out of his mouth.
Water. Please.
You just hang in there, champ. Someone come help. Bring some water. Men came in one after another. Someone came with a pitcher that Calhoun chugged down. Just what kind of boat is this? The captain kidnaps his own first mate just to murder him at a later time? Duff was still chanting his mantra with his head down on the deck. I'm gonna put an end to this. Stand aside. I grabbed an axe off the wall labeled for emergency use only, and I ran towards the bow. I had reached the marred figurehead and I raised the axe above my head.
Please, don't! Please stop.
Captain Duff, still shackled, called out from behind me. Why, Duff? I want to hear you say it.
They need to stay at sea. They need to stay on this boat.
What happened here, Duff?
Me father, he kept promising to hand off his business to me and my brother. But he refused to retire. He wasn't the man he used to be. He was getting people hurt.
And your brother?
We were supposed to split the business 50-50. We were raking in money faster than we could spend it. I came to find out he was shorting me and stealing from the crew. I gave him both my best years.
There's courts, Duffel. There's courts for this type of thing. What you did, it's unnatural. They were family.
I'd take it back if I could. The stuff I don't. I can't control myself or remember much when I'm in that state, but I put 2 and 2 together a long time ago. Those are my father's and my brother's shares. They haunt me still. This is my atonement.
You hired me because you couldn't keep the charade going any further. You wanted to be caught. You have been eaten up with guilt for so long you can't stand it. You turn a galver of gold and it makes you sick.
Most of us knew you were dumping crates, Cap. We tried our best to cover for you. You always paid us so well and took care of us. If you were going off your rocker, we agreed to keep things sailing as long as we could. Calhoun, he's straight as an arrow. He would never go along. But this and your family? You tried to kill Calhoun in one of your fits. This ends now. We will not be a part of murder.
Someone turn this damn boat around. Captain Duffeldoon was held in the small jail cell of the ship until we arrived back. The police waiting on the dock for us. You're gonna need a saw. The remains of his father and brother and the figurehead. It's hollow. He killed them both. They took the disgraced captain off the ship and put him in the back of a squad car. He'll be going away for a long, long time now. Listen, Cal, if you and the crew got any money saved, from what I saw, you guys are a well-oiled machine. It won't be another SS Allspice, but maybe that's for the best.
I'm already thinking 2 steps ahead of you, Canary. Aye. Thanks for everything.
Good luck, Captain Calhoun. Boy, am I glad I got paid up front. Next day at my office, I'm glad to have my feet on solid ground again. I'm still chewing from that sack of squid pots. Don't suppose I'll ever find this stuff again. I'm sure it's not great for the old ticker. One thing's for sure. You won't find me on any pleasure cruises anytime soon.
Voice acted by, in order of appearance, J. Henry as Canary P.I, Julian Gillis as Duffeldoon, Jackson Tyler Lee as Calhoun, Frank Guglielmelli as Deckhand. Written, directed, and edited by J. Henry. Music by Pedro Esparza, Kevin MacLeod, and Vivek Abhishek. Further information and details below. For information on collaborating, contributions, or just want to keep up on the current scoop, follow us at twitter.com/RP Canary P.I. This concludes the broadcast.